Hello, everybody. Welcome to Peaceful Rebellion. Well, we are here with Ian Robinson catching up. It's been, I don't know how long it's been, Ian, since we talked.
A while, a
Six,
while.
6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a chat. We're going to have a catch up. We're going to see what's up with Ian. I think he's just about to embark on something very exciting in his life. And we'll talk about a bit of everything.
Mm.
So, how is life for you, Ian? Whereabouts are you based in the UK?
I'm in County Durham, in the northeast of England.
Okay.
So yeah, but life currently is very, very busy. I've just been doing a personal training and gym instructor course. So I've been doing that. So I'm currently qualified as a gym instructor, and I'm just waiting to get my qualification or get some coursework marked off to become a personal trainer. But in the background behind all that, I also practice Reiki. I'm a Reiki teacher. I do the hypnosis. Obviously, I practice EFT, Indian head massage. I'm also a meditation teacher and coach as well. So, and then obviously, I also have a part-time job currently, which I'm about to leave in the matrix in the mainstream world as well. So yeah, I'm I'm always busy. Yeah.
And that's one thing that I admire about your style, Ian, which is, this constant improvement. You always, I don't know how long we've known one another, but I'm aware that you wanted to learn hypnosis and you took it and you picked up the ball and you ran with it. Now you want to be a personal trainer, you're doing that. And so wonderful there. Well done for keeping yourself busy. I mean, how many strings have you got to your bow?
Well, the way it's going, many. I'm going to be like a harp before long.
What do we used to say? Uh, Man of many talents, master of none. That's what I used to say about myself. I'm a man of many talents, master of none. Very good. So, you've been doing hypnosis now for how long?
Oh, over a year.
Over a year
I would
now.
say
Yeah.
probably maybe a year and a bit.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah,
Before that, I mean, you've been working Reiki for how long?
Reiki since well, since 2019.
Okay.
So I was first started learning Reiki in 2019, and then became a practitioner from 2020, and then the whole world went into lockdown. So it gave me a lot of time to sort of hone my skills and work on
Sure.
myself and do a lot of healing internally as well. Which a lot of that came up for me as well after the attunements and whatever that you go through. So there was a lot of that needs to go through. Um, but it also that time gives you a lot of time to kind of like reflect on life, and it gives you time to reflect on where you are, what's going on,
Mm.
in the world, and why are we all doing this? Why are we why are we all buzzing around in this madness when this actually feels really really nice being able to do my own thing?
Sure.
And I think it made people realize that um, life is for living and life is for appreciating and life is it's what you make of it really, and I think part of the matrix and the mainstream world, it wants to try and give you the least opportunity possible to be able to do anything, the least amount of money, the least opportunity possible to be able to do anything. So basically you have to just grasp it with two hands and just say, you know what, I'm just going to go for it, I'm just going to do it. And like I said earlier, things are just for grasping hold of and just give it a go. If it doesn't work, try something else, but there is always opportunity out there. It really
Sure.
is. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I heard a nice expression when somebody was talking about how the matrix works, and he was saying that business wants to get out of you the maximum amount of effort for the minimum amount of money, and we want to get out of the business the maximum amount of money for the minimum amount of effort. It's like it doesn't really work. It doesn't
Yeah.
really work. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I mean I worked for the man for 20 years in textiles in a very, very intense job. And then I started working for myself. So I've seen both sides of the coin, and to be honest, being your own boss there is nothing like it in the world. There is no job in, working for the man that's as good as working for yourself. I am the best boss I've ever had,
Mm, yeah,
you know? There's nobody better than I am as my boss.
yeah, yeah. I can imagine. It's just like, yeah, it's one of them things as well. And I know we had a little bit of a chat before we came on camera, but it got to that point where the stuff that I was doing, it was like the job itself was creating like a block, and it was almost like that there was a crossroads was coming up, and I had to make the decision, and I'd sat and procrastinated with it for so long. And I'm terrible for that. I'm terrible for like procrastinating and thinking about stuff for so long, rather than just saying, just bloody get on with it, and just do
Mm.
it. And Yeah, so I sat with it for so long, and then in the end, but I kept getting this sort of like this feeling of, just do it, just do it, just do it. But then, as we always say, like in hypnosis with the training, when you're listening to your higher self, and the ego is always coming in and trying to convince you, well, no, that's not going to work because of this, and that won't work because of that, and you won't be able to do that, and you won't be able to succeed at that, and you're just like, just shut up, because you just want to follow that. It's just that soul calling that is
True.
just in there. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. On the converse side, we live in this three-dimensional world in which you need money. And if you haven't got money, it's a bit tough.
Yeah.
So it's kind of we've got to find a balance. And that's why that's why we procrastinate. That's why we put stuff off, because jumping in and we can follow our path and our soul, but if it's not properly planned, if you
Mm,
haven't done the work as you've done this preparation of getting yourself properly, ready for it, then you can end up in a sticky situation. Eh,
mm.
eh, got a question for you. So you've been working uh, with people in Reiki, and people bring all kinds of issues, I'm sure. Then you've been doing hypnosis, etc. What would you say would be, let's say, and I know it's difficult to kind of pinpoint it, but what would you say would be the biggest issue that people have that they bring?
Anxiety.
Hmm. About
Straight
what?
away. Um, about life in general, about their situation, about um, maybe some addiction things that they got going on, which is created from the anxiety that goes to the addiction because they think that's going to solve the anxiety.
Sure.
But I mean, anxiety across the board, with so many people that I speak to, and that come for therapy work and clients and what have you. I would say 98% of them come with anxiety issues. They may not even be aware of it to begin with. It's something that they might afterwards they might start like thinking, oh, actually, yeah, I have got this issue. I am feeling this. That I do have this overactive mind that's always questioning things and creating the worst case scenario. And I think as therapists, and you might have found this as well yourself, but when I first started and I wanted to learn Reiki, I was going through a lot of mental health issues myself. So I was going through depression and anxiety and panic
Hmm.
attacks and all that sort of stuff. And through my teaching and what I was taught, my teacher often said to me that you tend to attract people that you have kind of like gone through the same issues with
Yeah,
because you have an understanding of it.
sure.
You have a deep knowledge of it, and they will be attracted to you and drawn to you, not because you're an anxious person, but because you're actually very empathetic to their situation and to their way of being, and you can understand and you can empathize with the situation that you're in. And I find that a lot when I speak to people about it, and I can just so resonate on every level with them
Mhm.
of what they're going through and what they're struggling with, and being able to give them little insights or snippets of things that I've tried and I've used to try and sort of calm the monkey mind down in all those years
Yeah.
that have passed. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. What I'm aware of is, for example, on all of the courses that I've been on, the hypnosis course, the NLP course, and then other courses, I used to always look at all the people who were on the courses thinking, I think they all need therapy. I think that all these people learning to be therapists are a little bit, ooh, myself included. And I think people who have had very, very tough experiences tend to be drawn toward that kind of healing. Once they start, I found that as I went through that training, I healed myself. The
Mm.
training started to heal me.
Hmm.
But also, I'm aware that the best therapists are the ones who've been where you are when they're working with you. The
Hmm.
one who can really help you is the one who's walked in your footsteps before. Because I suppose because you understand where they are, but also you understand that there's a way out, that you can get over it.
Yeah.
And it's that belief. I suppose as a therapist, if you're working with somebody and you have no idea what that feels like, you don't know whether they can get over it or not. But for example, if I work with somebody who's just come out of a cult, I know for a fact that I can help them to get better. You
Mm.
know, all right, is it a big job? Yes, but I know because I've done it.
Yeah.
Whereas if I hadn't been in a cult and people came to me and said I'm in a cult, I'd think, well, I don't know how to help you. You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's just like you say, people are drawn to that because there's an element in themselves that needs some element of healing, and
Sure.
that's what draws people to that journey. And we often see, I think, well, I often see for sure, that lots of posts on social media and what have you about about healers and people that are practicing therapies, and they aren't perfect people. These are people that have been through a lot of darkness and continue to go through elements of darkness. They're just able to navigate it easier because they've got better clarity of mind, or they've got practices that they use to keep themselves grounded and stabilized to be able to focus on the things that really matter, and not worry about all the stuff that's going on in the background. And so a lot of the practices that we use, like the meditation, the Reiki, the hypnotherapy, the EFT, and it's all geared at sort of like just connecting to it, but also calming it down and just
Yeah,
knowing that that's not really you. It's just the mind that's creating all that. The very essence of you is it's always there, and you're just trying to re-find it one layer at a time.
sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as well, something like you said there about therapists and people who work in therapy are not necessarily, sorted.
Mm,
It's a life's work putting yourself right, I suppose and sometimes we don't even get it done in a lifetime, hence the
mhm,
fact that we've got to keep coming back. But if you believe in that. But I know lots of I just think of one situation where there's a client that I've worked with for a lot of years, and you end up being friends with your client, really, and I know you're not supposed to, but who gives them monkeys? Some people are really nice, and I get to know that, you get to know all about the families and or more things than perhaps the best friend would know. And I remember she came, I convinced her to do an ayahuasca retreat because I just thought I talked to, it helped me tremendously. And I thought, I think that would help. And so she went and she really enjoyed it. She had a very tough time. But then she came on the same one as me. And during the weekend, we were all, doing our thing and whatever. And afterwards she said, wow, I've discovered that you're just the same as everybody else.
mhm.
Because I think I was giving some feedback and I burst into tears and I was crying about something. And she said, "Oh man, it was like, thank God that, that they're just normal. Therapists are just normal."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting you bring up ayahuasca retreats because for some reason lately they've been very, very prevalent on my YouTube feed. So
Okay.
I've been watching a lot of the videos of them, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's there's something that is profoundly interesting in there. And the difference in the people when after the retreat, after what they've gone through, the ceremony and everything, the 3 days or however long it might be, seeing them beforehand and seeing them after, there's something that is just like there's some profound shift that's taken place, and you can't quite see it. You can see it physically slightly, but there's just something within the way that they are, the way in their being, in the way that they just seem a lot more relaxed in their own skin. They seem a lot more at peace with themselves, a lot more at peace with the world, and not so wound up with things.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, that's interesting. That, and I've been watching a few of them videos, and yeah, they've been very interesting.
Well, if you ever fancy, you don't need to go all the way to Peru. I know a man who can here in Spain, and it's I what I think about. I know we're going down the ayahuasca route, and that's probably not the intention, but what I've discovered with ayahuasca, that experience is that one night with ayahuasca is worth, I reckon, a year's worth of therapy.
Mm,
It's like, but obviously there's a price to pay because therapy's not easy. Therapy's a tough thing to go through. You've got to face your demons, you've got to face your shadow. Well, imagine that compressed into one night or two nights. I'll do a weekend,
yeah.
just a Friday and Saturday. At the beginning, that was so tough. But I've seen the same, these changes in people, and I've seen the change in myself as well.
Mm,
And it's that you come out, I don't know if you notice in the interviews that they do afterwards when people are talking about the experience, often the cry,
mm,
they're often brought to tears.
yeah, yeah.
And it's very common that after you've had these experiences, it's almost like somebody's put their hand down and just dragged out everything. And
Mm,
you're like, whoa, and it's very emotional, but
yeah.
very, very life-changing. However, it isn't a miracle.
Mm,
It's not a miracle. What it does, it shows you what your path is, it shows you what you have to do, and then you have to do it.
yeah.
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 So it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. They have been extremely powerful, the ones that I've seen, but that you said there as well is so true about so much. That it's showing you like who you are. It's showing you where you were, but it's also showing you that the things that you also need to continue to work on,
Sure.
which a lot of the ways is what we're doing. Within our practices, is we're guiding people into the areas that need to be guided into. To be able to facilitate that healing a little bit further, or their awakening, or being aware of their shadow, whatever it might be. Um, because I often get the question asked, well, how many sessions will it take?
Mm.
Well, I really don't know. It depends on how much you've got in there that needs to be looked at. Well, I've only come for this. Well, yeah, but you'll come for one thing, but other things will come up, other things will arise, and that's part of the journey. That's part of the process. And it might sound, a lot of people might think, well, it sounds like a bit of a cop off, and you're just trying to make more money out of me, or whatever. But that's the experience that I had, but that's also the experience that I see as well through the healing journey of what they go through. They come with one thing. You do a few sessions, maybe a week worth of sessions, or 5 sessions over a course of weeks, and then other things they start to become aware of, other things in their life, the way that they behave, the way that they react to certain people are starting to trigger them. They become more sensitive in various areas of their life that they just weren't sensitive to before.
Mhm.
And it's kind of upsetting them a little bit because they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to live in that way, in that mindset. So then you have to look at areas of that as well.
Sure, yeah. One of my teachers used to say, never believe your client. Okay, and which seems like a paradox, because I believe everything that they tell me,
Mm,
but never believe them when they tell you what the problem is. They
mm,
have no idea,
mm,
no idea what the problem is. All that they're giving you is the problem that's manifesting itself at this moment. But it's like when you were talking, it's what I see. It's like we have a way of protecting ourselves, and that is by creating layers upon layers of stuff. And so
mm-hmm,
the manifesting problem is the top layer. And yeah, you come to therapy and somebody will take that top layer off, and then all it does is exposes another one. You go,
mm-hmm,
oh, hang on a minute, I've got another problem now, and we'll take that one off. So for me, that therapy, the essence of therapy, and it's the same. People say, how many sessions? And I say, well, count on a minimum of three,
Mm,
and that's just to do the very, what I think is, I see it like this, get the person in, let's resolve the past first.
mm,
I think to do them a service, it's to resolve the issues they've got so they can go forward whole.
mm,
Because there's nothing worse than stumbling forward and you're still broken, and you just continue to stumble on. So that's kind of my focus is always let's get everything sorted from yesterday and beyond. Once that's done, then we can look at now and then we can look at the future and see and normally what happens, what I find, because I think we're all perfect. We're all beautiful. We came into this world as these beautiful diamonds and all this shit was poured on us and thrown at us by all of these big people around us. Once you can clear the shit off,
mm.
people discover that they're okay.
Yeah.
We don't need to be super people. We just need to be okay. There's a book about it. I'm okay, you're okay. Just being okay
Mm,
is a great start for getting on in life. And that's
yeah.
that's how I see our job is to help people to be okay so they can
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah. And to be okay is enough. It's enough for a lot of people just to be okay because there's so many people that aren't okay and they're just looking for okay.
Yeah,
Um, and then there's a lot of people that are like looking for, well, I just want to be happy. And you're like, well, again, it's one of them things. Well, what's going to make you happy? But then so many people will be like, well, I've tried this and I've tried that and I've bought this and I've bought that and none of that made me happy. So that's because you're looking externally for happiness. The happiness is already there within you. What you need to then have an aspect of is what around you and what emotions and what mental blockages are stopping you from getting to what is in the center of you to find that happiness, to find that diamond or that light that is there, because that is the truth. That is where the truth always is, and that's what you'll find.
sure. And yeah, happiness is, the I often mention the in the US, they wrote it into the Constitution, the pursuit of happiness. Like, bad idea. Bad idea. That means you're pursuing it. It's always in front of you. It's always out of reach,
Hmm.
but you've got to
Yeah.
pursue it. No, it should be finding happiness
Mm.
within, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just look at a little child, a little baby, a little child of, before the world happens. They are happy. They are intrinsically happy. They're born happy. There's nothing unhappy about them. Yeah, they can cry. They can go through the range of emotions, but the default place is happiness. And then life comes along, and in a more kind of spiritual way, that's meant to happen. We say it's terrible. School comes along and parents, and we all get it wrong, and then the kids are all screwed up. It's meant to happen. That's the whole point of us coming here.
Mm.
Is to have these experiences and then spend the rest of our life working out how to get over them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's I see that as this is the plan. This is what we wrote, and our job is to help them to facilitate that getting over. Getting over themselves sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just watching a video today of was it on Facebook or somewhere like that, and it was about the very very same thing about. I think it was about mediumistic, like be training to be a medium. I think it was something like that, and the person that was doing the video was just trying to demonstrate like that happiness is already there, and there was a video. I think it was his daughter or something like that, and she was just like skipping down the road and whatever. And you're just like, look at her, she's just so happy and not a care in the world. There's nothing that bothers her. There's nothing that's blocking her. She's so connected to herself, to the world that is around her, and that's what as mediums do, and that's how they kind of like work on that level. And I just thought, yeah, it's so true that they are just always happy. Like, yeah, things crop up and what have you, and they cry, but straight away they just come out of it and they're back to their normal way of being.
Sure, sure, yeah. And all that happens is we just forget where we store the happiness, and we forget how to get in touch with it, and you know, life takes over. I mean, life's very fast. You were talking about living in the Matrix. and that's what happens is we get we I used to describe it. I worked in when I worked for the man, I was on this really fast train. Yeah, I used to call it the Intercity 125, and everything outside was a blur. It was just, and this is what my life was for 20 years.
Mm.
And then the universe stepped in and took it all off me. And I just got off the train and stood on the platform, and I thought, wow, it's really quiet. It's really still,
Yeah.
and I can see things. And it's that you don't realize where you are until you're not there anymore.
Mm.
It's that old expression, you don't know what you've got until you haven't got it. But you you sometimes you don't know what you've got until the universe takes it off you and you think, well, thank God for that.
Mm.
That was awful. But that was awful can sometimes be 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life.
Mm.
And you don't realize until you come out of it.
Yeah. Because then you retire. You know,
Yeah.
you've worked all of your life for however 40, 50, however many years, and then you retire, and then you're like, oh, this is what life's really like. But then you get to that age, and because you've been so conditioned to always have to be busy and you always have to be on something, it probably takes you 5 or 6 attempts to retire, and you can't calm down, you can't settle down, you're just not used to that quietness. Yeah, it's a strange old system, isn't it? But it's
Sure.
in its own way, like you say, it's there to teach us as well, to show us.
Yeah, and our job, the way I see life, Ian, is this, and this has come from repeated past life regressions, chats with the higher self in between lives. And, the more that I've done that with people, the more I keep seeing this one kind of message in all the therapy I've done, which is the job of life is to, for us to suffer when we're children, suffer little children. I don't know who said that. Suffer when we're children. And so we get messed up then. And then the job is for us to, as quickly as possible, put that right. But I don't think that we can avoid the suffering. I don't think that that's not the reason why we come here. We come here to have that and then to work out how to get over it. The job is to do it as quickly as you possibly can, clearly. But, it isn't that easy. What would you say would be the average age of people coming to therapy for you?
Oh, usually usually mid 30s to mid 40s, roughly that sort of age.
Yeah,
Usually around that sort of age that people talk about a midlife crisis and things like that. They're starting to be like question everything in life. And even for me, I think it might have been like 30, 32-ish, when I started like just sort of opening up to like the reality of everything, and this awakening that so many people go through. Um, and then sort of like just being in kind of like total shock of like, really? So this isn't none of this is none of this is actually real, just you go through that whole roller
what a
coaster.
disappointment.
I know. But yeah, but it's those sort of ages, that so many people come to me with something, and like I say, it's that it just falls into that typical bracket of like a midlife thing that is going on. Yeah.
Sure. And that's kind of what I see is that it's when people are in the 20s, they're aware of the issues that they have, but they don't give a monkey's. They're like, 20s, like the time frame sort of, from 0 to 11, that's the time that all the damage is going to be done. Your
Mm,
plan is going to be put into place, all the trauma. And then we have the teenagers, which is just awful. And then the 20s, where we're up our own arse. You know,
mm,
20s, it's all about me and have fun and everything. 30s is where we start looking at, what am I doing in terms of my business and my business acumen and stuff like that, maybe family, etc. And it's as we're heading toward that 40 that we start thinking, hang on a minute, I've got to sort my life. What about me and my life? And so it's kind of, although we've got to do it quickly, generally it doesn't happen. It's I think if you were completely sorted in your 20s, you were very, very lucky,
Mm,
very fortunate. And I think most people, and some people, I mean, I've had people who are in the 50s, 60s, and they're still not sorted. They haven't found that peace. They
yeah.
don't, I remember talking to a guy who was 50, maybe 55, and I said to him, so your job, you had a really good job as well in the bank. And I said, so do you like your job? He goes, no, I don't. Never liked it. And he was like 50, he'd been on it like for 30 years or whatever. And he said, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I thought, wow, you spend like 35 years in a job you don't like.
Mm,
Man, that's not good.
no.
It's not good, but it's very common.
Mm, yeah. It's too easy, isn't it? It's too easy to become comfortable, I think. And just not have to like step onto a different path, because you just think, oh well, this is it, I'll just do this. And that used to be the norm probably like maybe what 20, 30 years ago. It was the norm to have a job for life.
Yeah.
Whereas now you don't have a job for life. There's so many jobs that are sort of like 0 hour contracts or minimum like 4 hour contracts, or so you have to have multiple part-time jobs, and then you have to juggle all that uh, to be able to do all these different jobs at the same time, and then you've got maybe children and family and that you all the other commitments that you have to look after as well. So yeah, it's that was probably like a generational thing where you did
Yeah.
have a job for life. You got your pension, and at the end of it, that was it. Life was rosy. You got your pension, and that was kind of like the goal that people looked for, was just like paying the mortgage off and getting a pension, and that was it. That was the life done.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're in a whole different age of people and um, entrepreneurs and new younger people coming through with great vision now. I think there's a lot of growth, especially in a lot of the youth that's coming through. I mean, here at the minute, that there's like a grey era age of like teenagers that just have no sort of, they just have, they almost like soulless really. There's like sort of no desire to them. But the younger ones below them, there seem to be like a new level of consciousness in them, whether it's to do with a new earth or whether it's to do with the golden era that so many people talk about. But there's something more about them, and more just a spark of life in them, that they know what they want to do. And I mean, I was talking to my trainer today, and he said he had to go and do a talk at a school in the village where the gym is. And this school, it's all like sort of like infants, juniors, so only young, like
Mhm.
6, 7, 8 year old or whatever. But they're already thinking of concepts of how to start their own business, like
Wow.
at that age, So they're coming through with all these new visions of how to be in a newer world, because I think that now is part and parcel of how we're going to have to be able to, I suppose, manage on some level, because we can't put our faith and trust in, well, we never could really, but our faith and trust in any governments or jobs or anything like that really, and we have to just look after ourselves, look after our own backyard, and that's where we can then, we can look after and nurture our garden and create more for ourselves.
I agree. I agree entirely. I do think that we're moving into a completely different age, and all of it's a funny time because all of these structures that everybody depended on, government, medicine, finance, education, all of that, they're crumbling. They're going to
Mm,
collapse. They've got to, because they're old, they're antiquated, they have no place in this new earth that we're getting. And what's going to come through, I think, is exactly that. These young, bright, entrepreneurial people who have the intention. This is kind of where I'm coming from. The old structure is self-feeding. It has
Mm.
no intention of helping. All it
Mm.
wants to do is to feed itself,
Yeah.
you know, like the serpent eating its tail. And there's going to be this new wave of people who actually want to help,
Mm.
who just like people and want to help people. And it'll be such a paradigm shift for the earth because, I was thinking about this. Imagine a world in which everybody wants to offer something positive to the world. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to create something that's going to make people's lives better. Imagine a world like that rather than everybody wants to earn money.
Mm.
That's where we've been. It's in the old Capricorn, top down kind of, no, I've got the information and you have to pay for it.
Mm.
And we're seeing this change of people just, I mean, the ideas are out there. If I've seen one, I've seen oodles of videos of people who have found ways of producing things freely
Mm.
that normally have to be paid for, dug out of the ground and stuff like that. And of course, it's illegal, and it's again, the knock you off if you try, say, oh, I can actually run this, I can run my house, and I don't have to pay anything, on electricity. And they go, "Whew, next day, you're
Yeah.
dead."
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but there's more and more and more and more of that coming out. There's people just saying, "Hey, I found a way of doing this. I found a way of doing that." So everything's there in place. And it's just a matter of the old structure getting out of the way, which
Mm.
we're seeing now, the fall of the old structure. And then, it's like they're going to go wham. There's going to
Yeah.
be no stopping that.
Yeah. There's a book that I read by oh, I can't remember her name now, but she wrote a book called The Golden Future.
Uh-huh.
Um, and she talked a lot about that and about how the systems, obviously how the systems are going to break away, but there's going to be these new systems. There's going to be um, new youth coming through with exactly what we've just been talking about. With all this these new ideas, this entrepreneurial activity, and being able to harness the earth, and help the earth and help each other and live in a more harmonious state with each other rather than being in this kind of constant 3D fight or flight state that we've all been in for so long. And as
True.
that structure falls away, we're going to go more into, the heart. You're going more into the love. And I think it's beautiful to see, and it really is quite evident to see as well that it is
Mm.
happening and it is taking place. And that's why as well that we see so much, well, even more shit than normal being kind of like piped out and filtered out to try and keep whatever's left of the people that are hanging on to that that the hope that they're going to do something for us, is to try and keep them rallying along. But more and more people are just saying, "Now we've had enough of this. Now it's time to jump off."
More and more, more and more. And of course, it's difficult to know how many
Mm.
we are. But the sense that I get is that, all you need to do is look at how many things are being posted and what the comments are. The comments are always a good measure because
Mm.
before, 20 years ago, the comments used to be awful if anybody dared step outside of the mainstream line. And now it's like if you're in the mainstream line, the comments are horrible. People,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you, what a lie. So I think we're in a very, very different place, and it's got that inertia, that momentum once it really starts, and I think we're just on that roll now,
Mm.
then it's going to accelerate at a pace like we've never seen before.
Yeah, yeah, for
Mm,
sure. Yeah,
exciting stuff, eh?
very much so. Very much so.
Mm. So
Mm.
listen, just to round off, Ian. So you are a master Reiki how do you say it? Master Reiki practitioner or master Reiki
I always say Reiki teacher practitioner.
teacher practitioner?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't like using the word Reiki master because it sounds a bit too kind of like up my own ass kind of thing. It like, oh, I'm a Reiki master. Well, I'm a Reiki teacher practitioner, so
super,
yeah,
super. In brackets, master.
yeah, yes,
Oh, in brackets, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
If you push me, all right. Yeah. So, and you do stuff online, yeah? You'll work with people online.
Yeah, I work with a variety of people online, but more in person now. There's been more people in person rather than online
Nice.
now. So it's been nice to. When I first started the business, it was very heavily all distance work. It was online work, but now it's segued to pretty much all in person. So it's been nice
Right.
to actually connect to people and work with the energy one to one with people and understanding the difference between the two modalities of what I'm experiencing and feeling during the sessions as well, which are totally different for me and probably for the clients as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I do like working in person. I mean, I rarely do. Only sometimes people will come to my house, but I live in Spain, so they tend
Mm,
to be Spanish people. Um, but yeah, I do like working in person. However, I generally work online, but that's okay. It's absolutely fine as well
mm,
online. Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll put on my channel, Ian, I'll put your details there if anybody wanted to contact you and maybe talk about potential sessions, or if they want you to be their instructor, fitness instructor as well. That
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
interesting online. Yeah,
Yeah.
loads of people do it online now, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. There's quite a lot of people that PTs and stuff that do it online now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to be a growing industry for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I've talked to people who say I've got a personal trainer and we talk on online. Yeah, so
Mm,
very good,
yeah. Yeah.
excellent. Well, listen, thank you very much for having a chat, Ian. It's been lovely
Yeah,
catching up.
it's always good to catch up with you, Gordon. I know we're both very busy people, but when we get a chance to have a natter, it's nice to get together and chew the cud and just to see what's going on with each other.
Absolutely,
Um, yeah,
absolutely.
so
And listen, every success with your shift in your business.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure that'll go very well for you.
Everything's crossed, so I'm sure.
It has to
Sure.
be, yeah. However, I mean, I can see you've got a very, very high work ethic. By the way, what's your star sign?
Gemini.
Gemini. Okay.
Mm.
And what do you know what your ascendant is?
Oh, I don't know. I did. I read up on it ages ago, but all that stuff just it just goes straight over my head. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I lose track of it.
Lose
Uh,
track of it. Yeah, just I mean, obviously you've got a very big work ethic. I can see that. So I'm sure it'll
yeah,
go very well for you.
yeah, and I think that's part of my procrastination thing is because I'm an air sign. I'm always like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, rather than just being kind of like grounded and just like doing it and getting on with it.
Sure,
Uh, yeah,
sure. But
so
I've got a feeling that either your ascendant or your moon is is going to be in earth or fire, or maybe a mix of the two.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, sir. You have a lovely day,
You too, Gordon. It's been wonderful catching up as always, and
and we'll
we'll
catch
we'll
up
chat
again.
again
Yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Super.
All right. You take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.